The countdown clock displayed on the Exodus's bridge ticked down relentlessly, echoing in the cold silence of the starship. The ship's vast hull loomed against the backdrop of a dying Earth, a planet that had once teemed with life, but now lay shattered by war, pollution, and natural disaster. The Exodus was humanity's final answer to a question that had consumed the world for decades. Could humanity escape its past? Captain Nadia Rivers stood at the command console, her gaze fixed on the viewscreen. The Earth's atmosphere was a sickly hue, a testament to the planet's slow suffocation. Fires raged across continents, massive storms ravaged cities, and the oceans had risen to swallow coastal nations whole. She could feel the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders, the knowledge that the human race had failed. Yet in the depths of her resolve, there was a glimmer of hope, a fragile hope that this ship, this mission, would be their salvation. Beside her, the ship's chief engineer, Dr. Lin Chen, ran his fingers over the holographic interface, his brow furrowed in concentration. All systems are online, Captain. The Exodus is ready for launch, but there's something you should know. There's been a complication. Nadia turned to him, her eyes narrowing. A complication? Dr. Chen hesitated, glancing nervously at the data streams. A faction aboard the ship, one we didn't anticipate, has been actively trying to sabotage the launch. They claim we're making a grave mistake, that humanity isn't meant to survive. They're called the Ascendants. Nadia's heart skipped a beat. The Ascendants were a shadowy group of intellectuals, scientists, and even political leaders who had long believed that humanity had failed beyond redemption. They preached that the only way forward for humanity was to let Earth die, to allow nature to reclaim its rightful place in the galaxy. Their influence had grown in the final years on Earth, but the Exodus was supposed to be immune from their pull. You're telling me that a group of people who want us to fail are aboard my ship? Nadia's voice was sharp, a mix of disbelief and anger. Dr. Chen nodded, glancing over his shoulder at the entrance to the command room. They've already made their presence known. They've managed to infiltrate key positions among the crew. I don't know how many are involved, but they're trying to stop the launch. They believe humanity deserves to perish. They think our escape is a mistake. The tension in the room thickened. Nadia's hand clenched into a fist. She had known that not everyone on the Exodus would be entirely on board with the mission, but sabotage, especially at such a critical moment, was unforgivable. The success of the launch meant the survival of the human race. Failure meant extinction. We'll deal with them, Nadia said firmly. Activate full lockdown protocols. I don't care who they are, they will not jeopardize this mission. As the countdown reached its final minutes, the sound of an alarm pierced the air, signaling an emergency breach in the ship's security. The Ascendants had made their move. Nadia's eyes flicked to the countdown clock. 30 seconds. She turned to Dr. Chen, whose face was now a mask of determination. Prepare for launch. If they want to stop us, they'll have to do it after we leave Earth's atmosphere. The engines roared to life. The Exodus began its slow ascent into the skies, the ship shaking as it fought against the pull of Earth's gravity. Through the windows, the crew could see the world they had failed, now slipping away into the cold, indifferent vastness of space. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, and their journey had only just begun. The Exodus sailed through the heavens, its massive engines pushing it further from the dying world behind. The crew, still adjusting to the weight of their escape, moved through the ship in silence. The hum of the engines was the only sound, a constant reminder that they had left everything familiar behind. Captain Nadia Rivers stood at the observation deck, staring into the abyss of space. The stars stretched out before her, cold and distant, as if they were watching her every move. The Earth was now a mere memory, its blue and green surface replaced by the infinite black void. Yet, as she looked out into the unknown, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. The emptiness felt wrong. A presence lingered, but whether it was her mind playing tricks or something more sinister, she couldn't tell. "Captain," Dr. Lin Chen's voice cut through her thoughts. He had approached silently, his usual calm demeanor now tinged with unease. "You need to see this." Nadia turned to him, her gaze hardening. "What is it?" "There's an anomaly," Chen replied, his tone grave. "We've been picking up strange readings from deep space. It's not a ship or debris, nothing we've ever encountered before." Nadia felt a chill run down her spine. The anomaly was one thing they hadn't anticipated, something that didn't fit into their carefully planned escape. She followed Chen to the ship's data center, where the crew had already begun analyzing the anomaly signals. The holographic display showed a shifting, fluctuating energy field, unlike anything they had encountered in their vast knowledge of space phenomena. It pulsed with an eerie rhythm, almost as if it had a life of its own. The readings were erratic, fluctuating between electromagnetic surges and gravitational distortions. "We can't ignore it," Chen said. "It's heading directly in our path. If we don't alter course, we'll fly right into it." Nadia studied the display. The anomaly was massive, stretching across the void like a dark wound in space. It appeared to be a rift, not in the fabric of space itself, but something that was bending the laws of physics, warping light, gravity, and matter. "What happens if we pass through it?" Nadia asked, already fearing the answer. "I don't know," Chen admitted. "We've never encountered anything like it. The closest thing I can compare it to is an event horizon, but it's not a black hole. This is different." Nadia's mind raced. The Exodus was already running on limited supplies, and the crew was on edge after their harrowing escape from Earth. A dangerous unknown in their path was the last thing they needed. But retreating back toward Earth wasn't an option. They had burned their bridges. The idea of returning to that crumbling world was unthinkable. "Take us closer," she ordered. "We need to know what we're dealing with." The crew hesitated, but the captain's command was absolute. As the Exodus moved closer to the anomaly, the readings grew even more erratic. The ship shuddered under the strain of the gravity distortions, and the lights flickered momentarily as the electromagnetic pulses surged through their systems. Then, without warning, the anomaly flared, sending a powerful shockwave that shook the entire ship. The crew scrambled to secure their stations, and the comms crackled with static. The view screen flickered, showing nothing but static, as if they had passed through a veil separating them from the known universe. "Status report," Nadia barked, her voice sharp. "We're through," Chen replied, his face pale. "But, Captain, I'm not sure we're in the same place anymore." The starfield outside the observation window had shifted, vastly. The familiar constellations they had been following had vanished, replaced by strange and uncharted stars. They were in an entirely different region of space, one that no human had ever mapped. For the first time since the launch, Nadia felt a sense of true uncertainty. The ship was adrift in a cosmic unknown, and the feeling that they were not alone in this strange place intensified. "Prepare for anything," she ordered, feeling the weight of the mission settle over her once more. "We're in uncharted space now, and whatever happens next, we face it together." The strange stars outside the Exodus had settled into a fixed pattern, though no one aboard could make sense of them. Dr. Lin Chen had spent hours analyzing their trajectory, but the results were inconclusive. Their position was unlike anything mapped by humanity, and the anomaly's effect on their navigation systems only deepened the mystery. The crew was venturing further into the unknown, with no clear path ahead and no way of knowing what lay in wait. Then, something unexpected happened. It started as a faint signal, barely detectable at first. A series of pulses, repeating at regular intervals, came through the ship's communication system. The signals weren't natural. They weren't random radiation bursts or space debris colliding with each other. This was something far more deliberate. The crew was on edge. The Exodus had passed through the anomaly and entered an uncharted region of space, and now they were receiving signals from an unknown source. No ship, no probe, no civilization had ever traveled this far, and yet here they were, listening to something or someone reaching out to them. "Captain, you need to see this," Chen said, urgency in his voice as he called Nadia to the bridge. When she arrived, the signal was unmistakable, complex, organized patterns that seemed to grow clearer by the second. It wasn't just noise or static, it was intelligence. Nadia stepped closer to the console as the pulse grew more distinct, almost rhythmic. "Can you trace it?" she asked. Chen's fingers flew across the console as he worked to isolate the signal source. "I'm trying, but it's unlike anything I've ever encountered. It's not coming from a single point in space. It's as if it's emanating from multiple locations, from some kind of network, but it's definitely artificial." The realization struck her like a thunderclap. "It's a communication," she muttered. "Someone or something is trying to make contact with us." Just then the signal shifted. The pulses, previously repetitive, suddenly stopped in mid-pattern, and a new sequence began, this time with a clear message embedded within. The words weren't in any known human language, but a complex algorithm began to process them, breaking down the syntax and structure. It wasn't just a transmission. It was a form of invitation. The message was brief but chilling. "The dying ones, the forsaken ones, seek refuge. The stars do not forgive. Approach with caution." The words echoed through the ship's speakers, sending a wave of unease through the crew. The cryptic nature of the message left too much open to interpretation. Who were the dying ones? Why did they warn humanity to approach with caution? Captain Nadia Rivers felt a chill creep up her spine. Earth's descent into chaos had been the result of humanity's own failings, but now, after escaping the planet's death throes, the message from whatever lay in this strange region of space hinted at something far greater than they had anticipated. "Get me a visual on the source," Nadia ordered. Chen adjusted the ship's sensors, trying to triangulate the origin of the signal. He frowned as the readings bounced erratically. "I'm not getting a clear fix on anything, but the signal is definitely coming from somewhere in this system." The crew was growing anxious. The communication was unsettling. The cryptic warning weighed heavy on their minds. Nadia knew that they had no choice but to follow the signal. There was nowhere else to go. The Exodus was adrift in a strange star system with no clear destination, no charted path, and only the faintest glimmer of hope that this signal might lead them to answers. "Set course to the source of the signal," Nadia commanded. "We've come too far to turn back now." The Exodus turned, its engines humming softly as it propelled toward the unknown. The crew was silent, each member lost in thought, contemplating the implications of the message. Were they the dying ones? Were they being warned by an advanced civilization, or was something far more sinister watching them from the stars? The journey into the unknown had just taken a dangerous turn. The Exodus drifted toward the source of the strange signal, navigating through a system of uncharted stars and planets. The once calm hum of the ship had now become a constant companion to the crew, its presence filling the silence that had settled over them. There was no turning back now. They were moving deeper into the unknown, and the message they had received hung heavily in the air. The stars do not forgive. As they approached the coordinates, the crew braced themselves for whatever lay ahead. The signal, though faint, had been growing stronger, a clear indication that someone was waiting for them. The ship's sensors began to pick up unusual readings. A barren planet loomed ahead, its surface pocked with craters and deep ravines, bearing the scars of ancient cataclysms. The once lush world had long since fallen silent, but something beneath its surface remained. The signal originated from a vast underground complex, hidden deep within the planet's crust. "This doesn't make sense," Dr. Lin Chen muttered as he reviewed the scans. "This planet, it's dead, but there's something alive down there." The readings are coming from beneath the surface, but the atmosphere is unstable. It's like the planet is hiding something. Then it's hiding something we need to find, Nadia replied, her voice firm. Prepare an away team. We'll investigate. Minutes later, a team of 6, including Nadia, Chen, and Security Officer Commander Alexei Kovacs, descended into the planet's atmosphere. Their shuttle shook as they entered the thin, toxic air, descending toward the planet's surface. The atmosphere was a sickly green, swirling with violent storms, yet there was an eerie stillness as they touched down near the entrance to a vast underground facility, an ancient alien structure covered in centuries of dust and decay. The team exited the shuttle, donning their helmets and atmospheric suits. As they stepped onto the cracked ground, they could feel the weight of the silence pressing in on them. The air was thick, and every breath felt like an intrusion on the stillness of the long-dead world. They approached the entrance cautiously. It was enormous, built into the side of a jagged cliff, with symbols and markings covering the walls, an alien language unlike anything they had encountered before. The door was ajar, as if it had been waiting for them. But Nadia could feel an unsettling presence as they crossed the threshold, like something or someone had been expecting their arrival. Inside, the complex was dark, its halls stretching endlessly in every direction. The air was stale, tinged with the scent of decay and disuse. As the team moved deeper, their flashlights illuminated the ancient technology that littered the corridors, machines and devices far beyond human understanding. In the center of the facility, they found what they had been looking for, a massive chamber, its walls adorned with strange glyphs and symbols. At the heart of the room stood an artifact, a tall, obelisk-like structure pulsating with an otherworldly energy. It was unlike anything they had seen, an alien device that seemed to hum with life. The moment they entered the chamber, the device flared to life, its energy spiking in response to their presence. Chen's voice trembled as he analyzed the readings. It's an archive, a repository. This device contains knowledge, visions of what's to come. Nadia stepped forward, drawn to the device. She could feel its power, the weight of its ancient knowledge. As she placed her hand on its surface, a wave of energy surged through her. Her vision blurred, and the room around her dissolved into a torrent of images. She saw Earth, but it was not the Earth she knew. It was a planet ravaged by war, by greed, by the very same flaws that had led them to the brink of destruction. But she also saw something else, a glimpse of humanity's future, of what could be if they learned from their past mistakes. She saw humanity, not as conquerors, but as a force for peace, exploring the stars, connecting with other civilizations, and building a future based on cooperation, not conflict. Then the vision shifted, showing a dark, twisted version of the future, a future where humanity's arrogance and greed spread across the galaxy, bringing war and devastation to every corner of the cosmos. It was a haunting image, one that made her question whether humanity was capable of redemption at all. As the vision faded, Nadia stumbled back, her breath ragged. The team stood around her, eyes wide with disbelief. They had all seen it, fragments of a future that could be, or perhaps should be, humanity's fate. Chen was the first to speak, his voice low and hesitant. What we've just seen, it's a warning, Captain. A glimpse of 2 possible futures, and it's up to us to choose which one becomes reality. Nadia's heart pounded in her chest. The weight of the responsibility she now carried was immense. They had come this far to escape Earth's destruction, but what if they were simply walking into a new cycle of chaos? Let's not waste this chance, Nadia said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. We've seen what humanity could be. We'll fight to make that future a reality. But as she spoke, a chilling thought crossed her mind. What if humanity was doomed to repeat its mistakes, no matter how far it traveled? The chamber's energy slowly settled after the vision had faded, but the weight of its implications hung over the crew like a dark cloud. The knowledge they had just glimpsed was both a gift and a curse. Humanity's future was still undecided, but the specter of their potential fall loomed large. The alien artifact pulsed softly in the center of the room, as though it was aware of their thoughts, watching them with ancient eyes. Nadia stood frozen, her hands still trembling from the connection to the device, her mind struggling to process what she had just seen. Chen stepped forward cautiously, his eyes still scanning the readings. The visions were some kind of projection, fragments of possible outcomes, but they were not just random. They were linked to the very essence of the human race. Our choices will shape what happens next. Nadia's voice was quiet but firm as she turned toward him. So, we're at a crossroads. Either we become a beacon for peace in the stars, or we spiral into the same chaos that destroyed Earth. Kovacs, standing a few paces away, didn't share their optimism. His voice, rough and filled with skepticism, broke through the silence. Is that even possible? We've seen how the human race operates: greed, violence, self-destruction. How can we be sure we're not doomed to repeat it all over again? His words stung, but Nadia understood his fear. The vision of Earth's devastation was still vivid in her mind, and she knew it wasn't just a distant warning. It could easily become their future if they weren't careful. We can change, Nadia said, her gaze hardening. We have to believe it's possible. The team stood there for a moment, uncertainty hanging between them. The artifact remained silent, as if it had nothing more to say, and yet they could feel its presence. It was a bridge to something much larger than themselves, a doorway into an expansive, dangerous universe where the stakes were far greater than they had ever realized. Let's gather what we can from here, Nadia finally ordered, her voice resolute. We don't know how long this place will remain stable. We need to extract all the data we can before we leave. Chen nodded, though his eyes kept darting toward the artifact, as if it were pulling him in. We're dealing with technology that could be thousands, maybe even millions of years old. I'll try to retrieve everything, but we need to act quickly. As the crew worked, Nadia moved to the edge of the room, where the walls were etched with alien symbols. She traced one of them with her gloved finger, wondering what they meant. Were these the remnants of a civilization that had risen and fallen before humanity even had a chance to take its first steps into the cosmos? Or were they a warning, a cautionary tale? Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, a low rumble vibrating through the walls. The lights flickered, casting long shadows across the chamber. Panic rippled through the crew. Captain, Kovacs shouted from across the room. Something's wrong. The structure's destabilizing. We need to get out, now. Nadia's heart skipped a beat as she turned toward him. The warning in his voice sent a surge of adrenaline through her. Everyone, gather the data and head back to the shuttle. Move now. The team scrambled, packing up equipment and securing the data as the rumbling intensified. Chen quickly powered down the terminal he had been working at, his face flushed with frustration. This wasn't in the plans. The artifact must be linked to the planet's energy source. If we stay here too long, it could trigger something catastrophic. With their data secured, the crew rushed back to the shuttle, the ground shaking beneath their feet. The underground complex was beginning to collapse. The walls groaned and cracked, and Nadia could feel the heat rising from deep within the planet's core. They were running out of time. As they emerged into the open air, the shuttle doors swung wide, and the crew scrambled aboard. Nadia glanced back at the crumbling entrance to the complex, its once immense doors now buckling under the pressure. She could feel the weight of the alien artifact's presence lingering in her mind, its unfinished message still echoing through her thoughts. Go, she ordered. The shuttle shot up into the atmosphere, narrowly avoiding falling debris as the underground complex collapsed into the planet's core. The world below them was already beginning to fracture, and the crew watched in stunned silence as their escape from the dying world played out in real time. As they cleared the planet's atmosphere and left the dying world behind, Nadia exhaled deeply, trying to steady her thoughts. But the message from the artifact still burned in her mind. The stars do not forgive. The universe they had entered was far larger and more dangerous than they had imagined, and they were no longer alone. The future of humanity was no longer simply about survival. It was about choosing whether they would continue down the path of destruction or rise to something greater. The question now was, what would they choose? The Exodus drifted in the cold silence of space, the remnants of the shattered planet now a distant memory. The crew sat in uneasy silence, the weight of their recent discovery heavy on their minds. The planet had crumbled beneath them, but what they had found, what they had seen, would haunt them for years to come. The alien artifact, its cryptic message, and the visions of humanity's potential futures loomed large. Nadia stood at the command deck, staring out at the vast expanse of stars. The ship was navigating through an uncharted sector of space, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The alien message had warned them. The stars do not forgive, and now, more than ever, she felt that warning was real. They had escaped one disaster only to stumble into a far greater one. "Captain, we've intercepted another signal," Chen's voice cut through her thoughts. "It's faint, but it's coming from a nearby system, and it's similar to the one we received before." Nadia turned sharply, her instincts kicking in. "Is it a distress signal?" "Not exactly," Chen replied, his tone uncertain. "It's encrypted, but it seems to be a form of communication, similar to the messages we decoded from the artifact. Only this one feels different, more urgent." Nadia nodded, her heart pounding. The crew had been cautious since their encounter with the artifact, but the fact that another signal had appeared now, after their escape from the dying planet, made her uneasy. They were being pulled deeper into a web they didn't fully understand, but she knew they had no choice but to follow the signal. If it was anything like the last one, it could hold the key to understanding the galaxy and perhaps their future. "Set course to the source of the signal. I want answers," she ordered, her voice steady but filled with resolve. The Exodus slowly turned, its engines humming to life as it began its journey toward the new system. As they neared the coordinates, the crew gathered in the briefing room, awaiting the next step. Chen and his team worked feverishly to analyze the data coming through, while Commander Kovacs kept a close watch on the ship's external sensors. The tension in the room was palpable. They had come this far, there was no turning back now. Minutes later, the system came into view, a barren, rocky planet orbiting a dying star. It looked much like the one they had just left, a world ravaged by time and neglect. But this one felt different. The signal they were tracking came from beneath the planet's surface, just like the last one, but there was something more, an overwhelming sense of ancient power that seemed to pulse from the planet itself. "Captain, I don't like this," Kovacs said, his voice tense. "The readings from the surface are off the charts. It's like the planet itself is a sleeping giant, waiting for something to awaken it." "I'm not sure I like it either," Nadia replied, her hand gripping the console. "But we don't have a choice. We need to investigate." The shuttle was prepared once more, and the team descended into the planet's atmosphere, the rocky surface stretching out before them like a barren wasteland. As they landed, the winds howled through the cracked plains, whipping up dust storms that obscured their view. The signal led them to a vast, underground complex, far larger than the one they had explored before. Its entrance was concealed beneath layers of rock, but with a few carefully placed charges, the team forced their way in. The walls inside were covered in the same strange alien symbols they had seen on the previous planet, etched deeply into the stone, as if the structure itself had been carved into the planet by a race far older than humanity. The deeper they ventured into the complex, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The air felt thick, charged with something, an energy that vibrated through the walls and floor. It was as though the very ground beneath their feet was alive. As they rounded a corner, the team came to a massive chamber. In the center of the room stood a towering obelisk-like structure, its surface covered in intricate patterns that pulsed with a soft, otherworldly glow. It was identical to the artifact they had found before, but this one seemed more alive. The energy radiating from it was far more intense. The moment they stepped into the room, the obelisk's glow intensified. The team froze, a wave of fear and awe sweeping over them. It was as if the artifact was aware of their presence, watching them, waiting. This is a power we don't understand, Chen said, his voice trembling. This isn't just technology, it's something else, a force. Nadia's eyes narrowed. The urgency of the signal, the strange energy that filled the air, it was all leading to this moment. But what was the artifact, and what was it trying to tell them? Suddenly, the ground trembled again, this time more violently. The walls shook, and the air was filled with the sound of grinding stone. A deep rumble echoed from within the planet, and the lights flickered in response. The power within the artifact surged, and for a split second, Nadia feared the planet itself might collapse under the weight of its energy. The artifact's glow pulsed once more, brighter this time, and then a voice, deep, resonant, and ancient, boomed through the chamber. The time has come to awaken. The voice resonated through the chamber, its deep, reverberating tone filling the air like a thunderclap. It wasn't a human voice, nor did it belong to any creature they could comprehend. It was something far older, far more ancient than anything humanity had encountered. The words echoed in their minds, leaving a trail of unease that spread like wildfire through the crew. The time has come to awaken. Nadia's heart raced as the ground beneath them trembled again, sending a shockwave through the chamber. The obelisk before them surged with energy, its glow now blinding, as though the very core of the planet was responding to its call. It was as if the artifact itself was alive, pulsing with a force that seemed both alien and familiar, its power drawing them in. What is this?" Chen whispered, his voice filled with awe and terror in equal measure. The obelisk's light intensified, blinding the crew for a moment before it faded, revealing a new sight. A vast network of data flowing across the walls, revealing symbols and equations that were impossible to decipher with human knowledge. It was as though the artifact was showing them something, some sort of message, a glimpse of an advanced civilization's history, or perhaps a warning. Then, with a sudden surge, the walls of the chamber split open, revealing an enormous underground complex stretching far below the planet's surface. It was like a sprawling city, but not one built by any human hand. The structures were colossal, ancient, and otherworldly, designed to hold something far more significant than mere inhabitants. Nadia's breath caught in her throat. The implications were clear. This was not just a random discovery. This was an invitation. "Get back to the shuttle," she ordered, her voice sharp and commanding. Her mind raced, but there was no time to waste. The planet was waking up, and they had no idea what would happen next. The crew quickly made their way back through the crumbling tunnels, their steps echoing in the silence as the tremors increased. It was as though the entire planet was alive, responding to the obelisk's call. The air was thick with the same energy they had felt in the chamber, and Nadia couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. She glanced over her shoulder as they reached the shuttle, the walls of the underground city shimmering with an eerie, otherworldly light. They scrambled aboard the shuttle, the hatch closing behind them with a hiss. Nadia signaled for takeoff, and within moments, they were soaring back toward the Exodus, leaving the planet's surface behind. But even as they ascended into the sky, she could feel the weight of what they had uncovered pressing down on her. "What was that?" Kovacs asked, his voice tense as he strapped himself into his seat. "That thing in there, what did it mean? The time has come to awaken. What is awakening?" Nadia didn't have an answer. She only knew that they had uncovered something powerful, something that was beyond their understanding. The artifact, the messages, and the planet itself, it was all part of something much larger, something that humanity was now entangled in. As the shuttle approached the Exodus, Nadia's thoughts raced. They had come here seeking answers, but now they faced more questions than ever before. The artifact wasn't just a relic. It was a signal, a key to something hidden in the stars. And the warning it had sent them, the stars do not forgive, felt more real than ever. The shuttle docked with the Exodus, and the crew quickly disembarked. Chen was already at his console, his hands moving quickly over the controls as he analyzed the data they had retrieved from the planet. His face was tense, his eyes flicking between the readouts. "There's something I didn't expect," he said, his voice tight. "The planet, it's not just a remnant of an ancient civilization, it's a weapon." Nadia's stomach twisted. "A weapon? What kind of weapon?" "I'm not entirely sure," Chen replied. "But the energy readings, they're consistent with something catastrophic. If the artifact is activated, it could trigger a chain reaction. This planet could destroy entire star systems." A cold shiver ran down Nadia's spine. If they had unwittingly activated some sort of ancient weapon, the consequences could be devastating, not just for them, but for the entire galaxy. "What are we dealing with here, Chen?" she asked, trying to keep the panic from seeping into her voice. Chen swallowed hard, his eyes darting between the readings. "I think this planet was a failsafe. The civilization that created it must have known they were heading for their own extinction. They built the weapon to ensure that no one else would inherit their legacy. If we don't stop it..." He trailed off, the weight of his words hanging heavily in the air. Nadia's mind raced as she tried to process the enormity of what they had discovered. The galaxy was full of unknowns, but this was something entirely different. Humanity had thought they were the masters of their own destiny, but now they had unknowingly stumbled into a cosmic game played by powers far beyond their understanding. The stars, it seemed, held their own secrets, secrets that could either lead humanity to its greatest triumph or its final destruction. And the time for humanity's redemption, or its downfall, was rapidly approaching. The Exodus sailed through the vast darkness of space, the weight of their discovery pressing on the crew like an invisible force. The planet they had left behind was now a fading memory, but the ramifications of what they had unearthed were far from over. Nadia paced the bridge, her mind locked in a cycle of thoughts, each one more unsettling than the last. The signal, the obelisk, the cryptic warning, it was all a path leading to something they could not fully comprehend. "Captain," Chen's voice broke through her reverie, pulling her back to the present. "We're receiving a transmission. It's encrypted, but it's definitely coming from the same source as the one on the planet." Nadia's pulse quickened. She hadn't expected to hear from the artifact or the planet again. "Patch it through," she ordered. The screen flickered, and a new image began to form. This time, it was not the ghostly symbols they had seen before, but a face, a humanoid figure, though its features were alien, its skin shimmering with an iridescent glow. The figure's eyes glowed with an ancient intensity, and its voice, though not human, carried the same deep resonance they had heard in the chamber. "You have awakened what should remain dormant, humans. You stand at the edge of annihilation." Nadia's breath caught in her throat. The warning was unmistakable, and the gravity of it hit her like a physical blow. "Who are you?" she demanded. "What is this? What have we awakened?" The figure tilted its head, as though considering her question. "We are the architects of the stars, the creators of your destiny and that of countless others. What you have discovered is not a relic of a forgotten race. It is a weapon, a device of control, meant to keep the chaos of the galaxy in check." Nadia felt a chill run down her spine. The stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. "You say it's a weapon that could destroy entire star systems," she said, her voice steady despite the fear swirling within her. "What do you want from us? Why contact us now?" The figure's expression remained unreadable, but its voice softened, almost mournful. Your species is a variable, a wild card. You have the potential to rise, to surpass the limits imposed on you. Or you have the potential to become the very force of destruction that has ravaged this galaxy for millennia. Nadia exchanged a glance with Kovacs, who stood nearby, his expression grim. The tension in the room was palpable. The galaxy had always seemed like an endless frontier of possibility, but now it felt like a battleground, with humanity caught in the middle. You must decide now, the figure continued. The weapon you have triggered will soon be activated, whether by your hands or another's. It will reshape the balance of power in this galaxy. If you choose to stop it, you must enter the heart of the storm, the center of the power that binds the stars. If you fail, your species will not survive what comes next. The transmission cut out abruptly, leaving the crew in stunned silence. We have no choice, Nadia said, breaking the silence. We have to stop it. But how? Kovacs asked, his voice filled with frustration. We don't know how any of this works. We don't even know what the consequences will be if we try. We can't do nothing, Nadia replied, her voice firm with determination. We've come this far. We have to take the risk. The Exodus set course for the center of the galactic storm, the location indicated in the transmission. Nadia knew they were heading into unknown danger, but the stakes were too high for hesitation. This was humanity's chance at redemption, or its final test. They would face the weapon, whatever it was, and try to prevent the catastrophe that loomed over them. As the Exodus accelerated into the unknown, the crew readied themselves for whatever lay ahead. The universe was vast, its mysteries endless. But now, humanity had become a part of that larger story. They would not be passive observers. They would shape their destiny, one way or another. The stars, once a symbol of hope and exploration, now stood as silent witnesses to humanity's final trial. Would they rise to the challenge, or would they be consumed by the very power they had unearthed? As they neared the heart of the storm, Nadia's mind was clear. The universe had given humanity a chance to prove their worth, to rise above their past mistakes. The time for answers was over. Now, it was time for humanity to decide what kind of future it would choose. The Exodus plunged forward into the unknown, and with it, humanity's fate.